In this video, we're going to be continuing to backtest gold. I'm going from the beginning of January 2022 all the way up until the end of 2022 using my simple structure and liquidity-based strategy. So let's not waste any more time. Let's head over to the charts and let's get straight into the video. All right, guys, so thank you for joining me here over on the charts. So as I said, last time we got to December 2022, and we're looking to take this all the way up until 2023. So let's get right into the session. So in terms of weekly narrative, last time we identified something that had happened. So we were looking at the longs essentially after price had grabbed all of these weekly lows. It had also tapped into a weekly area of demand to the left here. I won't draw this on because price has got quite far away from it. But essentially it came into that weekly demand, rejected that area 3 times, pushed up towards the next liquidity target, which was this weekly high right here. Once that area swept, we could see a bigger pullback, although overall I am expecting price to now just gravitate back up even higher. It has clearly flipped bullish. We've got a lot of bullish momentum, so longer term targets, we could see price maybe come up into this weekly supply. We also have this this weekly and daily high up here as well. So these are the two sort of liquidity targets that I now have and where I'm expecting price to gravitate towards. So I'm just going to mark these on with a line just so I know when price has taken them out. Overall, by the way, I'm not expecting a big reversal from these levels. I'm just looking at them as potential targets to where we could see price maybe start to reject and pull back more from. So in terms of the 4 hour, at the end of last session, price has kind of pushed up towards this 4 hour high. So the first thing that we're going to look for actually in this session is if price can give us an opportunity, I'm going to look to buy up into this high. It's just a very clear liquidity target price is heading towards. We've kind of come up, paused at this resistance, pushed down, enticing sellers. So people are going to be trying to sell here. And this is exactly why we want to look for buys. In terms of an area where we could look for the longs, we have this demand that price has just come into. You kind of have this one just below it as well if price wants to tap into that. So if we go down and analyze some of the lower time frame structure, I'm just going to mark this on as a breaker structure as well, just so we know where we're at in terms of the structure. But in terms of like a confirmation here, you guys can see there isn't really any structures to develop or develop in. So the only thing that would be valid in this case, for me, is if price can come down, re-grab these lows, then break structure, and then continue up. But as of right now, it looks like price may just want to continue up. So let's see what it does. Yeah, so it looks like it's just continuing up. Good analysis, but not really a valid opportunity that I would take according to my set of rules. So if we get rid of some of these markings just here, there we go. And what we can see now is that price has actually just broken past that 4 hour structure, as we can see here. So the next idea that I would look for, if we get rid of this line, the next idea I would look for would be a potential retracement somewhere into the 4 hour range. At the moment, this area of 4 hour demand stands out to me. It's a very clear area of demand, as you guys can see. Clear imbalance came away from it, and overall we just had this very strong bullish momentum. Price is approaching that daily high, but it hasn't yet swept it. So if we go back out, you can see this is the next area we can expect price to head towards. So let's see if price can pull back into this zone. Currently, there's not anything that I would look to enter unless price can come down into this zone. You can see price kind of just consolidating at the moment after the big push up. And yeah, there we go. So price has pushed down into the demand. You could also refine it to this hourly candle that price has tapped into. In terms of 5-minute structure, so ordinarily, if you guys are new to the channel, I would look for this sort of formation where we come down bearish on the M5. I would then wait for a break of structure, for the 5 minutes to flip bullish, then wait for a pullback, and then look to buy. In this case, you don't really have any 5-minute structure unless you consider this single candle as a pullback. But for me, I would want to see at least 2 candles pulling back. This is not really a valid structure for me. So let's see how price develops from here. Yeah, so as you guys can see, it did end up pushing higher. We're clearly gravitating towards the current high in the trend. For me, I would not consider, like I said, this 5-minute as a change of character. But based on how price is pushing up here, you could maybe see something like this, where maybe it comes back, sweeps this liquidity level, and then starts to head higher. But I don't think we're going to get an entry on this. Like if I wanted to enter from here, for example, there's not really anywhere to put my stop. I could have it all the way down here below the demand, but then like I don't really have a good enough risk to reward. So I'm going to leave it in this case and just see how price develops further. Yeah, there you go. So as you guys can see, it did reject off that level, but you know, we didn't really get an entry. Could also look for buys like inside this 15-minute demand. Price has now broken that 15-minute structure again, pulled back into the demand. Again, though, in terms of entry confirmations, there's not really much going on. So I'm just going to keep playing price. And yeah, there you go. So as expected, it did come up, broke that high to the left, and formed a new higher high. I'm going to fast forward Asia session. But yeah, what you can see now, this is quite interesting. So we've had a sweep of that daily high to the left. Price is starting to reject. It is overall still bullish, but what we could see now is maybe for price to come back down. If I get rid of this, because this is the main daily breaker structure, we could maybe see price come down, sweep this daily low before then continuing the bullish trend. So if you wanted to look for a counter trend position here, you could maybe look for, you know, we've had a 15-minute change of character. You could look for a pullback into this supply, and actually I'm going to set a limit on this area. Reason for this trade: swept that daily high to the left, flipped bearish on the 15-minute, left this area of supply, and we can target maybe this low. And also we have a clear target as well. If you look on the daily, right, price is in a premium of the current range. We left this wick just below. I think that's a very likely level price gravitates towards. I'm overall still bullish, so if we can get a sweep of this low, maybe into like this demand that we had previously, then I'll look for more bullish continuations. But if we can also see a pullback into that supply zone, I would also be happy to sell. Currently, it doesn't look like price wants to pull back. Yeah, there you go. So price never pulled back. Sells were good though. As you can see, price did sell off, but now I would stop looking for sells because price has swept that 4-hour and daily low that we were looking for price to take. And yeah, this is the area I would look for the longs. Very clear level of hourly demand. Let's see if price can come into it. There we go. It's still valid if price rejects here. As I've always say, if you've seen any of my previous videos, the trade becomes higher probability for me if the actual area of supply or demand is swept before price starts to react. So here, in terms of the lower time frame structure, we can kind of see that this is the current structure you're looking at. So I would need to see price break above that high before looking for an entry confirmation. So yeah, if we can break above that 15-minute structure, I'll look to potentially get in on the longs depending on how price has developed. And yeah, there we go. So price is now flipped bullish on the M15. Right. In terms of demand areas where you could look to get in, you know, you kind of have this like whole hourly region just here. If we go on the 15-minute, It's not really the cleanest. I'm actually going to wait for another confirmation inside the zone if price pulls back. Nothing there just yet. Right, price looks to be going lower. Maybe if it can sweep this low, I'll look for the longs. But yeah, as of right now, this is kind of just like a consolidation. I'm not really trying to buy anywhere within this. Right, so price is continuing higher anyway. You can see that it kind of just came down, retested this area, and then flipped bullish again. So overall, what I'm actually seeing now is that the majority of people here, I think, are going to be viewing this as a change of character. They're probably going to be looking to short from this supply zone. However, because if you look on the daily is still very much bullish. We've come down, swept that daily low, and then started to push back up. So like I said at the start as well, I'm only seeing this as a smaller pullback for overall bullish continuations. And because we have also taken out that clear low, tapped into demand, this is more likely I'm more likely gonna go for the bullish scenario in this case. So if we can see a pullback actually into this demand, I'm going to look for a long just below that low, and we will target that supply zone if we can get a 1 to 3 on it. There we go. So price has reacted nicely from our level. We have another breaker structure just here. So the next area I would look for the longs would be this 15-minute candle. You could obviously just set a limit on this zone, but for my strategy personally, I always wait for the confirmation. I don't like just buying from the level without any confirmation. And actually, yeah, you kind of have got it there. So if you look here, price swept Asia low, took out the bottom of the demand as well, broke and slightly closed above this level. So it created a higher high. It has now pulled back into this demand, which swept the low to the left. However, this is in Asian session, so I'm not allowed to enter this. Yeah, there we go. So price did end up pushing from the level, but realistically, if this was live, I wouldn't have taken this because it was in Asian session. So what we can look for now is maybe a pullback to get back in on the long. But yeah, we missed the initial entry. I'm not really seeing anything to enter from in this case. So let's just see how price goes from here. See if it presents any other valid zones. Still rejecting that 5-minute demand that we would have entered from an Asian session. And looks like it wants to continue up. There we go. So it's a shame that trade happened in Asia session. That would have been a nice opportunity. But I'm sticking to my rules. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to capitalize in Asian session anyway because it is overnight here in the UK. And there we go. So TP hit on that first trade. In terms of what we could see now, we have another breaker structure just here. Like I said, I think the reaction from this supply is not going to be anything significant. It just looks like this is trapping sellers into the sell move in an overall bullish market, as we can still see here, particularly if you look on the daily. Very clear bullish narrative at the moment. So POIs, you could see price pull back into. You have this sort of 5-minute area, but that's not something I would look to trade. Let's see if it pushes from here. Yeah, so there you go. You did get the push, but that wasn't a valid setup for me. This is though, so we've got another breaker structure. clear area 15-minute demand, inducement above it. So if we can get a pullback into this demand, I'll look for an entry confirmation to keep buying. Again, very clear bullish trend at the moment. So this is sort of like your optimal conditions to be looking to trade, because it is very clear trending conditions. This is when the most percentage can be made. And there we go. So we did get the change of character. If I enter here with a market execution, don't think the risk to reward is going to be worth it unless we target. Actually, I'm going to do something slightly more aggressive. I'm going to enter here and I'm going to target this 4-hour candle. I think price could reject there. The reason is it caused this change of character, or you could view that as a change of character, and it just very clearly created a lot of imbalance. It's a clear level of supply. So if price is going to reject and reverse from somewhere, it would probably be there. But yeah, in terms of like entry confirmations, I suppose this whole 15-minute candle was fine. But yeah, I wouldn't want to over refine this because you probably won't get a pullback. There we are. So we're in the trade. Price continuing higher. Oh, there we go. Retest of our entry. Let's see if price can keep pushing. And there we go. So that was a nice trade. Again, like I said, very optimal conditions to start off December. We basically had two identical trades, just basically taking advantage of this clear bullish structure that we've had. And yeah, price has now come into that 4-hour supply. I'm not really interested in shorting this, but if we look back on the lower time frames, what you can see now is that we have this very clear structure. It looks a bit too obvious, and in scenarios like this, when it looks too obvious, typically price will come back down, collect some of this liquidity before pushing higher. So if I get rid of some of this, what I would actually look for now is for price to maybe come down and take some of these previous lows. So if we look on the 4-hour, we could maybe see price, right, so this would be my first level if price starts to pull back, and then this 4-hour liquidity would be my second level. Clear previous lows heading into the imbalance, so preferably we see it come to that lower level, but if it does start to show confirmation on this first level, I would also look to consider that for the sells. And yeah, there you go. Price is starting to reject from that 4-hour supply. So let's see if it can sweep the liquidity. There we are. Again, though, this is Asian session, so I'm going to fast forward slightly. And yeah, this actually looks like a valid entry. So if we go to the 5-minute, you guys can see London took Asia low, created a higher high. So what we can look for now is a pullback to this sort of region right here, which is the 15-minute demand. And I'm going to look to target the Asian high up here. So let's see if we can get a pullback here. Yeah, I'm going to cancel this now. Price slightly missed us and started to head up. And yeah, I wouldn't want to buy from this now, just based on how far price got away. It's also rejecting from this supply zone. Yeah, there we go. So it looks like price wants to continue lower. Obviously, this move, we could have capitalized on it if price hadn't slightly missed our entry. Our entry was around here. Price came around 2 pips away. But yeah, what I've looked for now, price is coming lower, so I'm going to look for that next liquidity level to be taken. This move down just looks very corrective as well, so I'm not seeing it as a complete reversal. And there we go. So referring back to the 4-hour, you've seen price push up, come down, sweep the last bit of internal liquidity within the range. So if we see some lower time frame confirmation here, I'm happy to buy. Currently, I'd need to see this high broken. Okay, now I would need to see this high broken. One thing gold likes to do a lot, by the way, if you test this strategy for yourself, is that when we have a sweep of some previous lows, it will very often reject, then come down, re-grab the lows, and then give the entry confirmation. So here you can see we had this change of character. Price is now bullish on the 5-minute. I'm going to just do a market execution here. You could obviously wait for a pullback into like this sort of demand zone we have here. But as you can see, price has already started to push from that level. I'd rather just be in the trade rather than miss the trade just because I was being greedy and trying to force an extra 1 or 2 R on this position, because you can also still get a very decent risk to reward on this. So first target is this liquidity level right here. However, if price goes straight through that level and doesn't show any signs of reversing, I'm actually just going to target this main high up here, which would give us a very nice risk to reward. But yeah, as I said, I will manage this trade accordingly. If we start to see reversals from here, I'll get out and secure it was around 4%, I believe. So there we go, price starting to reject nicely. See if it can continue up. And there we go. So full TP hit. Like I said, price did not reject at this level, so I was happy to hold the trade. And yeah, good result so far. I think we are 3 for 3 in terms of the winning trades. And yeah, so now we can just very clearly see price has pushed back up, lots of bullish momentum coming in. And overall, we are just looking now for more pullbacks to jump in on the longs. So the next target that we need to be aware of is this liquidity target up here. You guys can also kind of see we have basically a clean run between where price is now and between this liquidity level. There's not really anything you would expect price to react from. As you can see, there's literally nothing for it to react from. So I'd be very surprised if it doesn't look to target that high. And in terms of POIs, at the moment, not really seeing much. Price has pushed up with all of this momentum. So let's just see how it develops going from here and see if it forms any new zones we could look to trade off. Right, so price is pushing down. The next POI I would look at would be this low. If we go back to the 4-hour, the reason why I wouldn't look at, for example, this as an area of demand is you don't have any liquidity above it. So the next liquidity for price to take is this low down here. And I've actually just seen as well, you also have like a 4-hour demand just below this low. So yeah, I think price may gravitate towards that low. If it's taken out, we can look for the buys. I'm not interested in trying to sell down to it, so it's just a case of waiting. And yeah, there we go. So price swept the low, tapped into our demand zone. In terms of the 5-minute, we have actually just had a change of character, as you guys can see. We left an area of demand, which was imbalanced as well. So here I'm actually going to set a limit. I'm going to have stops slightly below that wick in case price wants to re-grab the low. And my target is going to be this liquidity level we have here. Could start, if price does sweep that and it does push up into it, you could see some sort of bigger pullback or retracement. So yeah, there we go. There we are. We are in the trade. Let's see if price can start to push for us. Nice rejection so far. There we go. Price starting to push. I'm not liking how we have all of these lows though. So this may be a stop loss. Let's have a look. Still holding that demand very nicely though. So no reason to close this. And yeah, there we go. So we've had very clear push up. Looks like it's going to hit TP. yeah, so there we go. Very nice trade, around 4%. Not the cleanest in terms of price action here. We've had this messy consolidation. But yeah, price swept our liquidity target. Overall, I am still looking for longs in line with that bullish trend up into this previous high in anticipation that price is going to create a new high, because that's what price does in a bullish trend. On the daily as well, you can see it came down, grabbed this daily low, hasn't reacted from anything to the left, so this is very unlikely to be a reversal. In terms of areas we could see price pull back into now, if I fast forward Asia session, we could maybe see price come down into this 15-minute demand and sweep this inducement that we had above it. And yeah, I wouldn't really look for buys above this zone. Actually, you know, you could maybe look for buys here. Price has pulled down, swept Asia low, started to reject. So let's see if we can get some sort of entry here. In terms of structure, there's not really much going on. I would need to see price break this high for a confirmation to be valid. Yeah, there we go. So the analysis was good. Wasn't a valid entry there for me. So sticking to the plan. Very clearly now, though, price is closed above that liquidity level. Price is clearly pushing higher up towards the next region, which for me is just this main high up here, or even this high, one of those two. But very clearly price looks to be heading towards it. So let's see what I would look for now. We still have this zone below. We could maybe see price come down and re-grab this low from the London session of this day. And if it does that, that would also be a valid POI for me. Right, so there we go. Price did end up sweeping that current higher low. In terms of structure, nothing there for me at the moment. If it can form liquidity above this demand, I'll enter this. But yeah, there we go. Wasn't valid. Price has now come into this lower 15-minute demand, as we can see. Swept the inducement to the left. Lots of people are now going to be in sells, seeing this as a change of character. They're probably going to be starting to do something like this, looking to short from this region. And that is another confluence why we should look for buys here. So in terms of confirmations, there's not really anything unless price can do something like this, where either it comes up, re-grabs the low, then breaks structure, or if it can come up, break this high, pull back, and then continue up. Those are the only two scenarios which would give a valid entry for me. So let's see how it develops from here. There we are. So if this wasn't Asia session, I would be entering this. Price pushed up, very clear momentum, broke that 5-minute structure we said to the left. So like I said, if this was not Asia session, I would be entering this. But because it is, I'm going to fast forward Asia session. And yeah, there we go. So price did come down, rejected from my level very nicely. But yeah, sadly that happened in Asian session, so we couldn't take advantage of it, but very good analysis regardless. We've had another breaker structure just here. Next POI for the longs would be this area of demand, and price hasn't yet taken out our liquidity level, which would be this area first of all, and then this area secondly, which is the current higher time frame trend high. So if we look for a pullback into this zone, it doesn't look like price wants to come down. Right, so there we are. Price has come down. I think it slightly missed us. Oh no, so it did tap the zone, but it doesn't look like we're going to get a confirmation here. As you guys can see, it just came straight down. No real structure for it to give a confirmation on. And yeah, there we go. So we just got that continuation up. Not really anything valid there for me. Right, so there we go. The next sort of trade I would consider, you can kind of see now price is pushed up towards that higher time frame trend high. We formed some equal highs with it, but haven't yet taken it out. The next trade I would consider, as you guys can see, we sort of have like this consolidation. If price can maybe grab this low and then start to reject, I would look for the longs. If not, we can look at some lower zones instead. Again, those sells would not be valid for me at this point in time. I would just be waiting for the buys. So let's see how, yeah, there we go. So price closed straight below the level, no longer interested in that. Next POI would be this hourly demand beneath this inducement. I'm not considering this demand, by the way, because I'm seeing this as an inducement. All right, there we go. So price didn't respect the hourly demand, but if it does start to reject here and break some structure, I would still consider the longs. Like I said before, if price sweeps the demand, the trade becomes higher probability for me. And here we are seeing some very nice rejection. And there we go. It also did break structure on the 15-minute. We wait for a pullback. Stops below the low. And for this one, I'm going to be targeting. I think we can get away with targeting this current trend high on this one, because my thought process here is that if price comes down, breaks above where it currently is, we basically have a clean run all the way up until this into this liquidity. There's nothing else you would expect price to reject from. So I'm going to set this limit. Thought behind the entry, by the way, is that we've had this 15-minute higher high created. This is the last bit of liquidity before this imbalance below. You could over refine the entry to this 15-minute demand, but for me, this risk to reward is already worth it, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to enter here. Building lots of liquidity above the level. There we go. We're tagged in. Nice rejection. And there we are. So we had a push up. If you missed this initial entry, you could maybe look for an entry in this region instead. Or you could just set a limit on that zone, obviously. And that looks like it would play out as well, as you guys can see. And there we go. So that was quicker than expected, but TP hit on that one. And yeah, so we can get rid of some of this now because this price has just broken that main structure again. So we get rid of this. Right, so now price has broken the main structure, which was this one. So what we could look for now, maybe a pullback. We do have maybe this 4-hour low. That would be a potential POI for me. Again, price still has not yet taken out the daily liquidity level above. There's no reason for it to reverse here. Similarly to the case we were looking at back here, lots of people now are going to be trying to buy from this demand. Obviously, it's a clear area of demand, but the reason this is not valid for me is because there's no liquidity above it. So this level becomes the liquidity that price is likely going to take out. So let's wait and see if it can sweep the level. There we go. And let's see if we can get a valid breaker structure here. It would still be valid for me if price maybe re-grabbed the lows, then broke structure. As I said, gold typically does that quite often. There we go. We need to see a closure above that wick though. Right, there we are. So price closed above the structure after re-grabbing this low. So now we want to see a pullback into an imbalanced demand. In terms of entries, you actually have this 30-minute demand sitting very nicely below the Asian low. So if we can set a limit on here, I'll have stops just below this imbalance. If price comes any lower, I don't want to be in the trade. And for this one, I'm going to target this liquidity level, slightly smaller stop just to make that a 1 to 3. Actually, what you could do here, you could obviously target this as your first target. If price starts to show signs of reversing from this level, you could get out. But overall, we are expecting price to gravitate towards the main high, which is this one. So yeah, I would manage this accordingly, but I see no reason not to target that current high if it can not miss our entry. So yeah, let's see if price can come back. There we are. If you wanted to wait for a 5-minute confirmation in this area, you could have maybe, yeah, so this would have been nice. You could have looked to enter on this demand. After it swept the lows, caused the change of character, liquidity above the demand. So if you wanted a more aggressive entry, you could have entered here, targeted this high. I'm obviously not going to enter this because I'm already in this first trade. But let's see how that would have played out. There we go. So that would have played out very nicely. But as I said, I was already in this first trade, so I'm not looking to enter again and increase my risk to 2%. All right, so there we go. Price has swept that first target. And if it can start to push up again from here, I'm not going to close. Yeah, there we go. So I think this, it looked like a change of character, but I think it's just a sweep for higher prices. I'm now comfortable holding this anyway. So let's see if we can get the push. And there we go. So I think that's actually the simulation over because we've completed December. So that concludes this whole series, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We went from the beginning of January 2022 all the way up until December 2022. So if you guys did enjoy this series, make sure to comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe because I'm thinking of doing one next on GBPUSD where we backtest an entire year and make it a series. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.